Hello and welcome to another very, very exciting episode of Bayonne Today. We have with us someone who wasn't born in Bayonne, doesn't live in Bayonne, but came to Bayonne and found a very unique building and has a very, very unique vision for that building. I'd like to welcome Doug Stern to Bayonne Today. Welcome.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. If you aren't clear on who Doug is, you will definitely get to know him in the future and especially today because he's here to talk to us about the old Maidenform building.
That's right.
That's right. Now, Doug, how did you find Bayonne and why Bayonne?
Well, I was introduced to Bayonne by a friend of mine who was making some investments in various areas. And I was looking for a place that I felt that had opportunity and had a unique properties and unique investment horizons, and I stumbled on the Maidenform factory.
Okay. Oh, the Maidenform factory over on Avenue E.
That is correct, on 18th.
And when you saw the building, it's a massive building. What was your first impression?
My first impression was, wow, oh my God, it's a big project. And I fell in love with the brick, the arches, some of the history right away. When we first looked at the building, it was actually a corporate headquarters full of offices that were duct taped together for 5 years.
Because they had officially closed the manufacturing / major part of Maidenform's business there.
They had
in 2009, I think it was?
That's about correct.
Okay.
They had closed the warehouse and the factory, but moved all their office staff to that building.
Okay.
So the CEO, the CFO, everybody, as long as this, in addition to the sales staff, were all located in this facility.
Mm-hmm. Now the building, and I'm sure when you saw the building you thought, wow, but did you see the ivy? Was it covered in the ivy at that time?
It was completely covered in ivy, and it took us a long time to tame the ivy. The problem with ivy is it can destroy brick.
Yes.
So you have to take it off or you're going to lose one of the most beautiful parts of the building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something I always recalled each and every year when you'd go by, and it did. I mean, it did grow. It was there. The building itself was not originally a Maidenform building.
It was not. That is correct.
Okay, I did some homework here online, and anyone who might have some questions we might not answer, you can go online and there's a wealth of information about Maidenform, the actual company, and also Doug Stern and the Silk Lofts. Now, what I read, and which explains why you're calling it the Silk Lofts, is that it was a silk manufacturing company when it was first built back in 1890 to 1912.
That is correct.
Okay, and I'll let you say what the name of the company was.
Schwarzenbach Huber, and they were the first occupants of the building until the late 20s when Maidenform acquired it, and two women who are now famous today launched, Maidenform. And
Maidenform itself, I read, and I do recall their advertisements, their ad campaign was one of the longest running ad campaigns ever in the history of advertising. It ran for 20 years. And for those of you who don't remember, and I know there will be some, women were always dreaming about what they could do as long as they had on a Maidenform bra.
Yeah, the I Dream campaign is one of the most successful advertising campaigns. In fact, I believe Harvard may have even taught a course on marketing and referenced that advertising of Maidenform. And Mad Men, the TV show, actually had a Maidenform episode, which shows you how iconic this company was, for this country.
And that's on YouTube, that if anyone wants, because I did see it, I also saw it myself. And it's such an interesting thing to see such a building that's so steeped in history, which has basically kind of moved into a technological age. And also, looking at the building, I had a tour, which was incredible, showing how Doug has kept so much of the original architecture and the materials. Tell us, now we're talking about the I Dream campaign, which was Maidenform's, and I'm imagining this is a bit of a dream for you, maybe a nightmare at times.
That's the beauty of development. There are ups and downs, but the best part every day is really more exciting than the last. In response to your question, I think bringing back the dream, what I saw originally, I always felt that Maidenform was an unpolished gem, um, ripe for success, ripe for some development, and ripe for a new kind of product that really didn't exist in Bayonne. Really an affordable luxury product that had unmatched quality, craftsmanship, and materials that we could bring to the city of Bayonne. And if I fast forward to today and I bring potential residents and tenants into the building, I'm getting inquiries from as far away as Florida to Maryland, people moving from Jersey City, from some of the top buildings in Jersey City, because they recognize that what we're delivering is that much more unique than anywhere else. We had a choice a long time ago: knock down the building and build 500 units. That would be plain vanilla, boring, or try and do something spectacular. Try and do something that we would want to live in. And really, that's every day when we make a construction decision. It's not, should we spend that? It's why shouldn't we spend it if it's going to be the kind of place that we would want to live.
I imagine, having gone through the building myself, there were people coming up to you at that time asking you specific questions about what was happening that day. And it was kind of like, well, let's talk about that, let's think about this, and this will be how it will go. Because with any kind of a development or any kind of a project, you will come up to points where what you thought you were going to do changes, and it morphs into something much, much more I'll say beautiful or functional. Your ceiling heights. Tell me about your ceiling heights.
Our ceiling heights are from 12 to 20 feet. And what we've basically done is expose the original, the original columns and beams with wood that's 250 years old, longleaf yellow pine. It's some of the most spectacular wood that you could ever imagine. The rings and the beauty of this wood is really unmatched today. So instead of painting the wood just white, like many developers do, we decided to peel back 50 years of paint and expose them in their natural state. And so in our hallways, our columns are not behind sheetrock walls.
I love that.
On our ceilings, it's that desire to really restore, rehabilitate, and bring back whatever we could. We used some of the old brick and wood and reused it in the building wherever we can.
Now you're moving into a very green aspect of taking what you have, and rather than manufacturing new bricks or the metal, you've used everything that was there, which basically shows how, when the building was built, which was, my goodness, over 100, almost 100 years, over 100 years ago.
Over 100 years ago.
That material probably is much more, is much stronger,
durable,
or much more durable than
well,
what?
They built to a different standard. It's interesting because our building standards clearly have changed over time. But the way they built things that long ago, they built brick walls that are this thick, that they just don't build that way today. So we're fortunate that the craftsmen that built the building in the late 1800s were really that good, without lasers, without modern tools.
Yes.
And they're able to do that.
Well, the respect that you've shown to those people and the feeling that you do get when you're in the building. I've never really thought about the workmanship of the building. I've always known seamstresses that work there. Maidenform at one time had as many as 1,300 people working every single day at that factory. And I know as times change and the economy changed and the way we live totally changed, many people, of course, were retired and no longer able to work at Maidenform, but they have the fondest memories. We talked a little bit, and you said that when it is ready to be shown, that you probably will have an open house.
I will have an open house, and we are honoring kind of the history of the people who work there in many ways. One of the ways is we're just keeping old artifacts and placing them in various areas. We're actually placing some of the old iDream advertisements.
Oh, really?
That we have secured, the actual Life magazine ads.
Okay.
And we're framing them and putting them in the building.
Life magazine was a staple at my home as a child. I loved that magazine, just
Yes.
the pictures alone. Oh, that's very interesting. So this will kind of be a little bit of a museum in one respect. And then I've also read what you're trying to create is the community of people who somehow will feel like they're going back to a street in France, or the inner courtyard. Wait until you see the inner courtyard. It will have a pizza
oven.
oven, okay.
A Neapolitan pizza oven that cooks at 900 to 1,000 degrees.
Really?
The basic idea here was to create a place where people love where they live. And in doing so, we thought we needed to support kind of a community where people don't just go to sleep at night and then walk out the door not to know their neighbors, but we foster an environment that enhances and enables that kind of behavior. So we put in a pizza oven because what better way than to get to know your neighbors than make a pizza together over a glass of wine or a beer. We have a Core 10, which is a rusted steel custom-made fire pit that's coming in as well.
Oh, really?
As well as a water feature, an herb garden.
An herb garden, I know, that's incredible.
If you're going to make pizza, why not have some fresh herbs?
My goodness, this is quite unique for Bayonne, I will say. I know that a lot of what your vision and dream are for the building. I know a lot of this has been happening in Brooklyn, over in the shipyards.
Sure.
You'll be our first luxury loft
Yes.
here in town. And I want you to break down, I think it's 85 units. And it's a breakdown of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, plus the artist's lofts in the back.
Now, we don't refer to them as units or apartments.
Okay, what are they?
We call them residences or homes. And
That's fine.
The real difference is that we're not building something for people to be transient and move in and out of. We're building something that for the time people spend in our building, they love living there. And that's really a home. And it manifests itself. We have 8-foot doors, solid doors. We have custom quartz chef islands that are 8 feet long as well.
Okay.
Really the highest quality materials we could put in what would be $1 million condo in Jersey City or Hoboken is what people are experiencing. So that's why I'm calling them homes and residences instead of apartments or units.
I will take that lead from you because I totally like that, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Being obviously someone very involved in town, loving the town myself, and seeing the forward motion that we're going in. I mean, the development is really picking up pace right now. I know how long have you been here? When did your project start?
It's been a while.
Okay.
I closed in 2011, I believe.
You've made remarkable progress in that amount of time.
Yeah. Well, we've had a focused mentality and a vision, and it starts with things like, is it a home or not? And then what does that mean? And it's about being true to what you're trying to accomplish and then following that path.
I kind of think that that's probably what makes your development so unique, because I've never heard anyone talk about it like that. You know, it kind of gives you a little room to back up a little bit and think more or less about what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Many developers kind of look at it as they're going to build it and, you know, people will like it or not like it. And our approach is really different. It's really, you know, trying to put our heart and soul into creating something that the people of Bayonne love, respect, and people from Jersey City and Hoboken want to move to. And from the beginning, I've said to several people that I looked at one of the challenges that I felt Bayonne had was some of the children of the long-standing people who lived here were moving outside of Bayonne to go find something better.
Yes.
And so with that in mind, I tried to create something better here that, and I'm proud to say, I am getting a lot of feedback from people in town and out who are willing to stay and want to stay to move to this building.
Well, knowing the history of Bayonne, knowing the conversations around the dinner table, I'm imagining you'll have some of the grandchildren of the women who sewed in there as a factory and say, guess what, Grandma, I'll be living in the same building that you worked for all those years. And it was honestly, Bayonne was an industrial town. I mean, we had factories on every corner, and people were happy and satisfied. The jobs may not have made so much money, but they were living here, they were spending their money here, and from what I get when I talk to people, that really added to a stability that the town had back then.
Sure.
And it sounds like what you are doing will bring that about again in a different way, but provide people a place to come home to. Now, the light rail station must really be a wonderful thing for you too.
It's great. It's 800 feet from one of my parking lots.
Wow.
And so it makes it really convenient to go to Jersey City, Hoboken, maybe have a few cocktails without worrying about driving.
True.
So it's a great benefit.
The building, I've also read online that we possibly might be putting on 2 more floors somewhere down the line, or are you still considering that?
We originally were approved for putting 2 more stories, and at some point in the future we may consider it. But we were pursuing parallel tracks. One was historic preservation,
Okay.
which we are doing. And in doing historic preservation, National Park Service really looks negatively
Yes, they do.
on adding the stories, and therefore we went down the current path that we're in.
Okay. I know that it was approved as a historical landmark, but it never was actually designated a historical landmark.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah.
We are going through that process currently.
You are.
Yes, this is a historic preservation project,
Okay.
and at the end of this project, we will have historic preservation status.
That's good news.
We'll be doing that, and that's why our windows.
Talk about the windows. Okay. How?
We have huge windows, and they're wood windows. They're historically significant, and in order to get the windows and put them in the way we did, we actually took back all the original arches of brick. So, over 50 years of Maidenform owning the building, in some cases they did not want.
That's right. They were smaller.
They were much smaller windows,
Yes,
and
they
they
were.
brick infilled some of the arches. So we had to hand chisel them out, rebuild them, and then put in the architecturally, historically significant windows in the entire building. So basically everything in this building is new except for the architectural elements of the brick, the wood timbers. Everything else in this building is brand new.
Now, the windows are 11 feet tall, I read.
The windows are huge.
My
the
goodness.
the natural light that comes in is really spectacular. We have some residences that actually have sunrise and sunset, and the sunset over the Bayonne Bridge
I know, it doesn't compare to anything.
is really beautiful. And it's a different kind of it's interesting because some people look at the tracks behind the building, and there are some people who don't like it, and some people that love it. I call it urban art.
I know, and that's in my notes too. I did write that down because I'm like, this is great. I always feel that way about it.
I can't tell you how many people they get it right away when they walk through the building, when they see our entry in lobby has a custom avocado and copper stained concrete floor. They get it right away that this is an urban, chic, cool, fun type building, type lifestyle experience, and they actually are looking for kind of that edge and that interesting landscape instead of just white walls. I'm not attracting the white wall kind of tenant or someone who just wants plain vanilla. I'm attracting, people who are creative, artistic,
Eclectic, bohemian.
eclectic, yeah,
It'll take a bohemian for that one of those lofts in the back.
The lofts in the back are really spectacular. We only have 6 of them.
Okay.
And although I'm not sure we will actually have artists or not, that will depend, they are the purest Brooklyn experience that we thought we could deliver. So in our main buildings, we have exposed brick in the living rooms and sheetrock in the bedrooms for comfort, to hang things, that sort of thing. In our courtyard residence, we have the least amount of sheetrock as possible, but the most exposed brick. We have terracotta cove ceilings
Yes.
that are 20 plus feet tall, that are hard to be, believed. We have iron fire doors, one of which is going to serve as an entry door in one of the residences. So it's just very unique. It's almost as if you stepped out of Brooklyn, in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, off a little park, and that's where your home is.
Now, did you know about that inner court? Were you shocked when you saw that little inner courtyard with those brick buildings? Because from the outside, people really don't even know that exists unless you had worked there. I mean,
You know, I honestly can tell you, I didn't know how beautiful it was going to come out.
okay.
You know, I think we had a vision in terms of what it could become, but that's the exciting part in terms of what you asked earlier. You know, how I feel every day it gets better and better. It's wonderful.
When I had my tour, we were chomping through about 4 feet of snow.
Yes, I recall.
I mean, you didn't even have a sweater on or a jacket. And I was walking with the photographer, and we were looking at everything. And you had the hard hat, and
Yes.
you were just going right through to show us. And look at this, and look at that. It was like being with a child in a toy store, seeing all of these things.
A kid in a candy store.
A kid in a candy store, and you got more and more excited with each time we turned the corner. And I was like, let me get through the ice, let me get through the snow. But it certainly was worth it. My goodness. It was really an experience, and I want to hear what people think when they do have the opportunity to go in. When do we think we're going to be finished?
We believe we're going to have first occupancy starting in June and July.
Oh, really?
And we're going to have the building complete before the end of the year.
Okay.
So we'll have about 24 residents moving in the June timeframe. And we've completed 2 models so far. The pictures are so good
They're
that
beautiful.
online
Yes.
people don't believe they're actually photographs. They think they're renderings, and they're untouched photographs.
Yes,
It's
I
just
remember the unit that I went into, and you were just discussing
the residents.
the residents. I'm sorry we walked through when you were discussing how you were going to lay things out. Now the views. Okay, we talked about the Bayonne Bridge, and we talked about the sunsets and sunrises on that side of the building. Now the other side, we have some views of Manhattan?
We have full New York City views and several residents,
Okay.
and they're spectacular. You know, it's when you have such high ceilings and big windows that then look at the New York skyline, it's breathtaking.
I would imagine. I don't think I got to that side of the building with you. I think we stayed closer to, we were closer to the entry. Now,
So-
is that going to be the only entry where you have the Silk Loft sign and you have that overhang?
There's actually 3 entry points for residents. The main entrance will be on 17th Street.
Oh, really?
In the middle of the
Okay.
building, there's another entrance that takes you to our fitness center area, as well as another elevator bank. We have 2 elevators in the building.
That's something.
And then a third entry will be on the north parking lot. If you were coming from the light rail and you wanted to come straight in, you come in that way as well, with a keep fob kind of electronic access into the building.
That was something that I wanted to bring up. It is an elevator building now. It wasn't an elevator building before, or did they have a freight elevator in there?
They actually had 2 elevators.
Oh, they did?
However, it was a big undertaking because the elevators were not ADA compliant.
Okay.
So we had to actually rip the shafts, you know,
open it up?
open it up and do some major surgery in order to get 2 modern style, brand new elevators in.
Well, that's especially important, though, too.
Yes.
Considering. Now, tell me who the residents would be. Are we talking specific ages? Are we talking empty nesters? Are we talking artsy people from other areas? Or we're just putting everyone together and mixing it up?
I can tell you that we have several people who have signed up and are going to be living in the place already. And they range from financial people, young financial types, to a software developer, to I'm getting all sorts of people who are interested. There's no demographic. There's no specific. I mean, I will say that, you know, the younger Brooklyn type or New York type or Jersey City type is definitely attracted to this project. But it's really anybody who wants something that's not plain vanilla. I have divorcees in Bayonne who are looking for a place. I have empty nesters. I have people who are getting married. I have one couple. They're going to get married May 31st.
Oh, really?
And this is going to be the first place they live.
over the. I can see a picture of him carrying her over the threshold. That would be nice.
You'll have to come back for a second segment, and we'll have to check.
Okay, all right, we will do. We'll need a second segment because as this moves along, I mean, it's been exciting to watch the development and pass by and see all of the changes happening.
Sure.
But having experienced it myself and of course discussed it with you back
Sure.
and forth, and then the research that I've done really makes you feel a lot more grounded living here.
It's very interesting. The history is very interesting. You know, in the whole building, in the history of Maidenform, the fact that they made parachutes and pigeon vests in this factory.
Yes. It wasn't only bras. It was parachutes, pigeon vests. I think mattress covers, I read. Now, the pigeon vests, okay, now if someone says, Diane, what did that mean? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating that servicemen who jumped out of planes behind enemy lines before cell phones needed a way to communicate to the front lines. It's really hard to believe in today's technology that they actually used carrier pigeons.
Isn't that wild?
And so they would jump off and there would be a pigeon strapped to someone's vest. And it can't be too tight because the pigeon would die. Can't be too loose because the pigeon would fly away. So it really did take some skill.
Okay.
And they would write a little note and then send the pigeon away. And I've read something like 50,000+ carrier pigeons were used. I mean, it's a staggering amount.
It's a staggering amount, and to know that those vests were made in Bayonne, this might be information that people never knew, and to know that we have such a wonderful building, we have such a wonderful, wonderful man who's come to town and talked to us about our history, about what makes our town so special, and keeping things the way that they are, because sometimes change shakes people up a little bit.
Sure.
But the type of change that you've brought to me is inspirational. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And I know just by looking at you, you beam as you talk about it. And because of that, not everyone gets one, but Doug is going to get one of my I Love Bayonne buttons because I think he'll wear it proudly.
I will wear it proudly.
Even though he doesn't live here, maybe we can get you to move here.
You never know.
Would you consider that?
You know, I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Okay.
And it would probably be pretty difficult for me to change school systems at this point.
Well, I'll give you the button, and we can
I will
only
wear
be
it proudly.
hopeful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching the show. Any more information, go online, look it up. If you see Doug on Avenue E, give him the little wave and tell him thank you so much and a thumbs up for doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There you go.